I think we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, wherever you are in the world. Oh, we're live now. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, wherever you are in the world, welcome to the latest GOR podcast.
All right, bro, you gotta let it play out when you press it.
Does that not work? Does that work? Try again. Good evening, guys and girls. As you can see, we've rotated the hosting duties a little bit today, so give our boy Wolverine a little bit of time outside the limelight. Also, just to kind of warm you guys up for the new FFTV Premier League channel, which will be hosted by myself and guests around us as well. So just to get you guys a little bit used to that. So we've got, as you can see, mate, we've got some amazing guests on tonight. So I'm going to jump over to our friend of the channel, Matt SB. Matt, how you doing? How's your week been?
Yeah, been all right, mate. Just missing the football at the moment. You know how it is in the summer, just talking transfers as much as we can. Obviously, we'll come on to Forest in a bit where there's not a lot of activity. But I just want to skip forwards to August and just get the season started.
100%. And returning star, Lemmy O'Brien. Lemmy, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Sorry, that was just my agent just calling, trying to see when I'm coming back from the States. I've said no. I want to stay out in America for a little bit longer. I'm not quite ready to go back to England yet. So
you're due back next week, aren't you? So if you can hold it off, mate, hold it off for any longer. And we'll go to our usual host, Wolverine. How you been, mate?
I'm alright until Crypto started going on about my shirt color. Look, right, I have committed YouTube suicide, especially with a virtual screen. Like, I can't believe it's come through, but yeah, shut up, Crypto. You just mod away in the background there, but I'm good, mate. It's nice to be in this seat. It's nice to be in this seat.
Yeah. Wait till it all goes tits up and they start calling for you to come back, mate. So wish me luck, guys. But there's only one place to start, really, and it's with our guest Matt today. Matt, how are you feeling after that playoff final? Oh, he's gone. He knew what question was coming.
He said the P word, Ed. You said the P word, man. He didn't get to live it how we got to live it. The poor guy, man. Guys, is it harsh? Is it harsh if we ask Matt about the playoffs? Yes or no? Do you want to know how he felt about the playoffs? Let us know in the chat.
Let us know, because obviously we're going to ask him about it, because we've not actually experienced what he's experienced. We never lost in a final. We never got to a final until last year. But hopefully he's not harmed him too much. Is he back?
I'm back. I'm back. I didn't want to talk about anything. I didn't want to talk about the final.
Playoffs. As soon as I mentioned playoffs, mate. Did you catch a question? How are you feeling after that final? And do we need to get the violins out?
Oh. Yeah, I'm just hoping the internet cuts out again now. Yeah, it's sore. Honestly, it's the lowest football that has ever made me feel. You know, the high you guys felt when you got promoted, when you stayed up last season. I'm sure you know you guys are experienced Forest fans. You'll have also felt some lows before, and yeah, just heartbroken because we came so far. But I'm just trying to hold hope that next season we can give it another crack. Our activity's been quite good in the last couple of days, so just trying to look forwards now, if that makes sense.
Can I ask a question on it, though?
Go on, go on, jump in there. Go on.
Question on it? Because you're right, we've experienced the heartache, but we've never experienced the final heartache. Yeah, and I got to say, your vlog on that day, I mean, round of applause that you did it. I would have burnt the tape myself. Yeah, I mean, even that point where the penalty, you couldn't bring yourself to. I fully got that. Yeah, but what was it like? Because it went all the way to penalties, man. Like, how was your heart coping? Because it's just so up and down. You guys were shit in the first half, man. I'm not gonna lie, but the second half, you did improve. How was the emotional roller coaster throughout?
It's strange looking back now, because now you look back with hindsight. You look back, you know, a few weeks later, and you feel a bit different about things. But in the moment, I mean, I felt like jelly that day. Like I just was like a frozen statue. Like I found it really hard to do the vlog, even before we'd lost, just sort of talking about my emotions, because my arm was shaking. I was just thinking like you say, the worst thing about it is it was so close. You know, if you lose 4-0, you say we were terrible, we didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
I agree with the first half. We were poor in that first half. Luton Town were better than us. And I suppose people might look at the big picture and say Luton Town did finish higher than us. But, you know, I thought we played really well in the second half. It felt as if at one point, if there was going to be one winner, it would have been us. And then when it went to a shootout, I remember turning to my mate and just saying, whichever end they take the penalties at, I feel like that team's going to win, because you just think the fans behind the goal can make such a difference. And then the coin toss and the Luton Town captain sort of pointed down their end and all the Luton fans were cheering. And I was just sort of like, oh no. And then, like you say, it was worse than just losing on penalties. We lost in sudden death. Like, it went all the way. Everyone was scoring. And then Dabo.
Oh, he's dead.
He's dead. He said the Dabo word.
Yeah, because Ez, make sure you ask him about Panzo. Do you remember what Panzo did where he
Panzo's little
it's crazy, but yeah. Sorry, Ez, carry on.
No, I was going to say, obviously we never lost in the final. We never got to a final and lost, but it must be gutting for him, because I remember last time we had him actually on the show, and I'd love to raise this point with him again. I think they were equidistant between the bottom three and the playoff positions, and I said you can still do it. Mark, remember last time you was on with us and we were talking about where you were in the table at the time, and you were like equal points away from relegation zone and the playoff and the top two. This is going so well. He's there. Is he back?
What?
Oh God. Well, it was bound to happen, wasn't it? As soon as we start talking about that playoff final, he didn't want to talk about it. Simple as that. So let's move on, or we can grill him when he gets back. But the theme of our show today is basically how frustrated. Everyone in the chat, let me know how frustrated are we that Forest haven't actually got any business done so far this window. Because by this time last year, I think we signed 4 or 5 players, and obviously we're not looking at the same amount of players getting in this season, but it's been slow start, and we seem to be repeating the same names over and over again. Lemmy, what's your opinion on our lack of transfers so far this season? Has it been frustrating?
I mean, I wouldn't use the word frustrating. I think I'd probably use frustrating for the issues that we've got at goalkeeper and trying to get Dean Henderson over the line, because that one seems like it's out of our hands, really. We can't really influence that one anymore. We want him to come back to us. He wants to come back to us, but it's just out of our hands. We can't really influence that one anymore. I think in terms of all the other signings that we've been linked to and what we should be expecting, I think it's a bit early to kind of be pulling the trigger on the panic button. Pretty sure we've still got loads of time. We've not really even hit pre-season yet. It would be nice to maybe have one name in the door at the moment, but it's not really.
We do, Lemmy. Chris Wood.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry,
we've got one in the bag.
But no, I'm pretty sure we're still okay. We are being linked to some names. I think that's pretty much where we should be really at the moment. People like to keep on making the comparisons to where we were last year, saying we probably would have signed 3 or 4 players, but that was signing 22 over the space of a January transfer window, which we've all kind of unanimously agreed we don't want to go down that road again. So it sounds like people are trying to have it both ways.
I mean, you've given a more balanced review of it, but Wolfie, is that what we're hearing from our chat? Because I've seen a lot of frustration in the comments.
Yeah, we got a poll going on as 49% are frustrated with the window, 20% are not, and 30% are saying it's too early to decide. Basically, I don't know. I'm impatient, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. Well, Matt, what do you reckon? Do you think we're just being a bit impatient in comparison to what happened obviously last season? Is it just because of that we're being a little bit more impatient? Because the Forest aren't really, even historically, we don't get our business done early. But the problem is, this is one of the things that they said at the end of last season, that we'd like to get our players in before the preseason starts, and that's not what looks like is going to happen. So is that maybe what's leading to the frustration? And are you seeing that on your wider forums?
Yes. So Just to clarify, by the way, guys, yeah, sorry, it's not that I don't want to talk about the playoff final. I'm having internet problems. I am back now. Yeah, talking about Forest's transfer window. No activity. All I'm seeing is just links all the time, rumours. As one of my mates, Cookie, would say, it's all fart, no shit at the moment. There's nothing going through. And I don't know what to say. I think the thing is, I was looking at Forest squad before we went live, and I was looking at what the players they've got. The frustration is there's key areas that really need replacements, goalkeeping being one of them. And you don't want to get closer and closer to the season with those key areas still looking for gaps. I think looking in the middle, the midfield looks strong. Obviously, it could still do with 1 or 2 additions. But like I say, it's those key areas like goalkeeper, maybe a fullback, left back. I know you've been talking about Lodi. But I think Dean Henderson has got to be like one of the #1 targets for Forest this summer transfer window.
With his injury status at the moment, which we discussed last week, because he's still not fully fit yet. He's not back in training yet. It might be, they're saying, about another 2 or 3 weeks before he's back on the grass. Does that, I mean, and also with Dean Henderson having been at Forest for pretty much all of last season, is that one that we can kind of let it ride out a little bit longer? Yeah, we are like sport. Yeah, probably fair comment after last season. But is that one that we can probably ride out a little bit? But my concern, and I think it's something that Wolverine's been mentioning in his daily videos, is that we need to have a backup. We can't put all our eggs in one basket with Dino, even though he is clearly the #1, no pun intended, #1 target. Is it the fact, just because of his situation at the moment and where he's already been here, it's not so much of a rush to get him in before pre-season starts? Or is it a fact of, you know what you want, get him in as soon as possible? Because it looks like we've been trying, man, you are trying to hold us to ransom over this deal. Guys, anyone? I was asking anyone, really. Go on. Whoever wants to jump in. Matt, go on.
What's that regarding Dean Henderson? Well, I mean, like we say, I mean, obviously, if he's injury prone, you know, that's the situation it is. I mean, even if he came in and just couldn't start for the first couple of games because he's still recovering, you'd maybe allow a Hennessy or a Horvath maybe to jump into that gap for them. But it's like you say, you were comparing it to last transfer window. It was more wholesale changes were needed last transfer window because they'd come up with, you know, loan signings and they really needed to replace. I mean, we spoke about before, none of us really expected them to go that crazy signing 20 plus players, but they certainly still need to make a few additions this time around, even if they're not going to make as many, of course. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, if you can't get Henderson, I was thinking, you know, which goalkeepers could you go for? I think you might have to go shopping around Europe. So it's a difficult one. I'd imagine you guys trusting Cooper to get the job done, but it's just that slight concern that we've got to this point, you know, just under 5 weeks now till the season starts and nothing going on.
Yeah, just before you jump in, I'd just say a quick thanks to Phil K for 7 months. Thank you so much, Phil. And also to Dylan, he's saying no need to panic yet. I'm sure Forest have a plan. Thank you for the 6 months as well, Dylan. You guys are all absolute legends. Sorry, yes.
No, I was just going to say, you know, obviously that's for one, like I say, one target that we kind of like think we're definitely going to get. But it is down to what Man U decide to do with it. There's talk saying that we're going to try and keep him. I think that's just a load of bullshit. He's not interested. He's not even going on their, is it the US tour that they're going on? He's not even joining for that. So he's clearly not interested, whatever the murmurings might be coming out of Old Trafford. I don't think his heart's in it. And we know that he stuck with Forest even while he was injured. He was there for the end of the season. He's a Forest player through and through, and I just think it's just a matter of time. But just to remind us, guys, as well, last season, MG Dub was our #1 target, without a doubt, and he didn't get signed until just before the Everton game, wasn't it? So, after we'd already played our first game. So it's not all doom and gloom if we haven't got him yet, but there are other targets that I think we need to definitely focus on. And Wolverine, you can maybe tell us guys a bit more about this. So with the Lodi deal, maybe that's back on at the moment with Marseille pulling out.
Yeah, it's like it's been on off all summer, and then it went heavily on at the end of last week when we did the video, and then over the weekend there's been talks of Marseille coming in and terms are agreed and all this BS. But now the reports that are coming out, again, do you trust the rumors or not, are saying that they're not interested in him. They couldn't agree terms, etc. And now Forest are the only ones who are interested in Lodi. So I don't know yet. I think I don't look with Lodi. I don't have it as a priority, even though I love Lodi. I mean, we've backed him all season on this channel. But the reason I say that is we got Omar Richards if we get desperate and his leg has grown back. Thank God for all that. Yeah. I just think the Lodi deal, if it gets done, I'll be happy, really happy. But it's the rest of the window. You know, you asked the question, I'm getting frustrated. It's not because I'm being a greedy kid in a sweet shop. My thinking behind it is I don't want to hear next season they need time to gel. We were hearing that up until after Christmas, you know, wait till the World Cup, they'll gel, up to after Christmas, they'll gel. And the sounds coming out from the Forest camp this season, where we want to do our business early so everyone gets a full pre-season, the squad, the new players come in. Yes, it may just be a handful of players. I don't mind if it's 3 players we sign. As long as they come in early so they can integrate with the squad, integrate with the systems and everything like that. That's where my frustration's coming from. Now, transfer deals aren't like what we're doing on Football Manager, but bloody, even Football Manager's hard to get freaking deals over the line. I get that, yeah. But what bothers me is because we didn't, a lot of clubs start their transfer dealings probably in February and March, where they start the negotiation. And then they'll get it. I remember Haaland last year, he was done by March. Yes, he officially became a Man City player once the window opened. But I think where Forest couldn't do that was because we didn't know where we were going to be. Is it going to be Championship or Premier League? So even though we now know where we are, I still think we're a couple of weeks behind a lot of other teams because we didn't know, could we go for a 20 million player or is it going to be a 2 million player this summer? You know, so I think a bit of that might have come into it. But as a fan, yeah, it's getting frustrating, man. If I have to talk about Hendo, Lodi, or Jono one more time, I swear to God.
Well, touching on, you kind of mentioned Omar Richards. I'll ask Lemmy this question. Obviously, I don't know if you saw the clips that were put out earlier this week where he was part of the, you could see him training and he was on an exercise bike. We actually saw him actually on the grass. What do you think, Lemmy? Do you think he's one that you can throw in, or because of his injury, that we're going to have to just be a bit patient with Richards, or would he, because he was obviously the first choice left back when we signed him last season? Do you think he's one that you can throw in straight away, or will the lack of football for the last 12 months be a hindrance for him? Because there was comments on one of our previous chats about sending him out on a temporary loan till January, maybe to another club. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I think you kind of you built me up to the point and then pretty much stole my answer from me immediately.
Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, the lack of football that he's had is, I feel like it's definitely going to end up showing, especially if we throw him straight in at the deep end. I mean, if we get a decent pre-season behind him, then maybe we might be okay to try and give him a couple of taster games. But I mean, the one recent use case that we've got of this is when we got Musa Niakate immediately back from his injury, and we threw him straight in at the deep end against Newcastle, and then we'd probably all unanimously say that was one of the worst games that we'd seen him play, and that was straight out from injury, not really having much time to test it, and he's got full 90 minutes under his belt. So having a full year out from not even doing any pre-season, any games, I feel like it'd be too risky to kind of throw him in straight in and get him started. But we'll see. We'll have to see how he does over pre-season. We're thinking positively. He might just turn up and at least get a good run out in every single one of the pre-season games, and then we might find his feet. But we just can't call that until we actually see.
Is the chat trolling on this? Sorry, Lemmy. This is like breaking news to me. Has anyone heard about this, or are you lot in the chat trolling?
I saw it in the chat.
Something about
not anything about it at all.
Chat, if you're trolling, we're just going to ban anyone who writes out word. That is a no-no for me. I don't know what you guys say. It's a no-no, man. Absolute waste of space.
But that's another Jesse Lingard type deal, isn't it?
Yeah, but Wolverine, it's then another sign-in. So then we've actually got one on the board.
I've got something to talk about.
We're off the blocks.
Matt, from the outside, I touched on Lingard, might as well, because if we can probably draw some comparisons to it. But Lingard signing last season, obviously it didn't work out. But from an outside point of view, what did you think when Forest signed him, and what do you think? Do you think it made an impact on the subsequent players that we managed to get in after we signed Lingard? Because do you think it helps us get the higher profile names?
No, not really. We spoke about this last time I was on, and we said, well, I said the players that Forest was signing I hadn't heard of before were growing on me, and the players that we'd heard of before, like Jesse Lingard, and I'll even say Emmanuel Dennis, which we'd seen at Watford, and we thought maybe good things from him. Just disappointed. I mean, Jesse Lingard in particular. I mean, I can't think of. Was it maybe Spurs in the cup? Was that maybe his only good game? Maybe.
Yeah.
It was a big disappointing signing.
Yeah.
Well, there you go as well. I mean, that's a terrible record, and obviously he's gone now. But just sort of looking forwards now. You just don't want to go back to those kind of players, sort of prima donna sort of players. I'd say as well. I'd put Dele Alli in the same bracket as that. I mean, he's saying how he's sort of fallen out of love with football, and he's not even interested in playing football anymore. He goes to Everton. He's been rubbish. I wouldn't be interested in those kind of signings. Like I say, it was the signings from overseas, like Danilo and Felipe. They're the ones that have really stood out to me.
100%, yeah.
Didn't he get booed as well, Matt? When because he went out on loan to Turkey, and they were booing him over there. He was playing that bad. Like this chat, I swear to God, if you're trolling us,
I've just had a quick scroll through Twitter for anything for the latest, and nothing's coming up at all.
No.
All right, I might start banning.
Start banning them, yeah. No, I mean, I think we can tell from the reception he's had on here that we wouldn't be interested. Prima donna. But it seems to be money's playing a big part in some of these players and how they're playing. I mean, even if you look at the players that Man U signed, great players, you put them on enough money, the passion for the actual game seems to be affected, and we've seen it more and more often now, and obviously money's going to be playing a huge part with the Saudis getting involved in some of the transfers. But I mean, that's a side topic, and I don't want to go off onto that. But so at the moment, there's not really many solid links. The one that seems to be most likely, or seems to be at least progressing, is Kelechi Iheanacho link, which we discussed last week. And Matt, I'll get your opinions on this, because obviously he's in the Championship at the moment. When we originally were told like 15 to 20 million, which I turned my nose up at. I didn't think that was the right value for him. I see a lot of potential in him, but he is a player that we've said all his career that he's got potential, and he's not really hit that target yet. Now we're talking about a more 8 to 12 million, 8 million plus add-ons, which might take it to 12 million. That for me is more digestible. What would you say about Kelechi Iheanacho possibly coming to Nottingham Forest?
I think it would be a decent signing, at least on the face of it, I think, because he's proven at this level. He's got goals at this level. I think you can get him for a decent price with Leicester City going down as well. I think, to be honest, even Leicester, I don't even know how much they'd want to hold on to him. I think they're just making wholesale changes anyway, with Maddison going. Barnes looks like he's going to Newcastle, and they just want a completely new team for the Championship. So I think there's the real possibility, like you say, you could get this for less than 15 million. Decent goals record. I feel like he never really got like a massive run of games at Leicester City. I don't know how much he'd come into Forest starting 11. I don't know if you'd prefer him to a Awoniyi. I mean, would you pick Iheanacho over Awoniyi? Would you start him?
Well, what would you say, Matt, as an outsider? Who would you think is the better striker from what you've seen?
Well, I think for the first game of the season, let's say you had those two as your striking option. Oh, there goes one of my AirPods. I think if they were your two striking options, I would start with Awoniyi, because he's proven at Forest and he's proven in the Premier League. Oh, let me check. Oh, they're falling out now. Because he's proven in the Premier League. He's proven for Forest. And he got didn't he suffer with some injuries through the season? Awoniyi, or he didn't get a massive run of games, and then
he had a hamstring injury.
Came in and
he got a hamstring injury just after it was a Southampton game, which was just after Christmas, wasn't it? And then he was out for about 4 months. So he missed a large portion of the season, just as he was hitting form as well. So it was a real miss for us. But you can see the impact he made when he came back, and his goals obviously played a massive part in Nottingham Forest staying up. So next man up for me. But I wouldn't be looking to replace Iheanacho with him, but there was some talk of maybe Cooper's looking at a different formation where he might be looking at playing two up front. Lemmy, how would you feel about that? Seeing two strikers up there and with them as a partnership?
I remember having this conversation. I think it was a couple of weeks ago when we did a live stream, and my opinion's still unchanged on that. I'm not a big fan of that personally, just because. I mean, it would be great because it then see Forest playing some attacking, progressive football, which I think is what we were pretty much all calling for at the beginning of the season. I remember doing a lot of streams and saying, "Oh, I'd love to see us in a 4-2-3-1 with these players, and we could be really aggressive." And then we were getting rattled 5-0, 6-0 every game. It's like, maybe we should just try and hold out to some of these games, try and pinch a draw. And then you go to the back end of the season where we then have a massive run form, winning every single home game, drawing against Chelsea, drawing against Crystal Palace away. And that's all with a 5-back formation, basically three midfielders. And then you've got Morgan Gibbs-White and a one-knee up front. So as soon as you talk about bringing in a second striker, my immediate thought is who's dropping out? Who are you taking out of a different formation to then shoehorn it in? And that just worries me. Personally. I'd love to see it going forwards, but I feel for now we found something that was working, and I would be worried if we then try to deviate from that. And
I think you're making a cracking point, Lemmy. Who do you take out to do it? Because Cooper's already struggling to get Jono back into the team, isn't he? And if you're going to bring Nacho into the equation as well, I mean, is this signals that Jono may actually be going? I love that I can sit here and chuck all this shit as the non-host. You know? So I don't know. I think you're making a great point. How can we bring him in? And would he come in as a backup as well? Like, surely he's sick of being a backup at Leicester. He was always behind Vardy, even Daku. What's his name? Daku.
Yeah, Daka.
He was getting games ahead of him. Is coming back to the Premier League to sit on a Premier League bench more appealing to him? I don't know. It's just a weird one a little bit for me.
Yeah, the deal's obviously got to be right for him, and he's going to have certain stipulations. But there's also the added concern of his nationality and losing him for the African Cup of Nations. And obviously, there's we've got a few. He's Nigerian, isn't he? So he's obviously a teammate of Owanyi's and of Dennis's in the international scene. That's something we're just going to have to deal with as and when it comes up. But that hasn't obviously put Forest off being interested in him. I think he's a good striker, and I think he just hasn't been given the opportunities. We had I don't know if you know him, Matt, but we had Lee Chappie on last week, and just to get his opinion on it, and we're very much of the opinion that Brendan Rodgers didn't play him, didn't give him the opportunities, but he's a very good player. If it wasn't coming to Forest, they'd be looking. I mean, he was saying 15 to 20 million, but obviously you lose a little money for going down anyway, and I think that's why we're looking at a slightly more reduced price. But they're of the opinion that if he'd been given the opportunity, he would have done a lot more with it. Do you think he's a player that? I'm asking Matt now. Do you think he's a player that just basically needs to be loved and he needs to be given the opportunity? Because he has got the ability. I'm sure we all think that. Just doesn't seem to have really hit the heights that I think his ability deserves.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because initially he was the Manchester City backup, wasn't he? And then whenever their striker would get an injury, he'd come in and be their sort of leading striker for a little while. And I thought he was always quite good as a backup striker for Man City. I think his goals to game ratio was something like 1 in 4, but if you work out, some of them were off the bench, so it's not a complete game. I thought the next logical step for him would be to go to a lower team, but to come in and be their leading striker. But the move to Leicester City didn't really offer that, because they always sort of started Jamie Vardy, even though Vardy's not been really at it in the last season or two. Maybe a team coming up then would be interesting. Maybe a Luton Town, a side looking to sign a striker that is proven at getting goals in the Premier League. Like I say, I think his goals to game ratio is pretty similar to Leicester as well, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. Like you say, that might not be appealing to Forest, who had a 1 year. When you work out a 1 year's goal to game ratio, he actually did all right because he got about 10, 11 goals and he was injured for half of the season. So, I think if he came into Forest, like you guys are saying, because you guys know better than me, he probably would have to be that backup. But you've also got a couple of other backups. You got Dennis and Chris Wood, and you could play Johnson up front as well. So I don't know. Like you say, would he want to come and get very little game time? I don't know if it'd be a great
Matt. Oh, Matt, you can't say the W word on here, Matt.
I apologise.
Joking aside, what do you think of Wood, Matt? As an outsider, what did you think of Woods? Like the deal as well. 5 million.
Didn't he get the goal against Man City?
Yes.
It is one and only goal, yeah.
Weldy 2-yarder.
It was a screamer. But I don't know. I mean, how much did that deal go through for? What was it? 15?
19. 19 million.
19. Yeah, I don't think he's worth that in my opinion. But
no, thank you.
He's not getting into that Forest 11, and he might not even be the number 1 backup as well. He might be number 3 for Forest. So, I don't massively rate him, but he needs a statue for that goal against Man City.
He is a statue. He never moves on
it. He is.
Just stick him outside the ground.
Matt, there's loads of comments asking for Sophie. Is Sophie around to say hi, just to shut these bloody... Honestly, I have so many comments through. There you go, guys. I'm sorry.
I'll have to get her back on. If I come on again soon, I'll get her back on. I'll get her available. I get so much of that on my channel as well. People like she needs to start up her own channel and stuff. So, yeah, she's more popular than I am.
Bless you.
I feel like just on that one, I feel like Forest fans just want to get her on just to get her opinion again on what she thinks of the Forest badge, because I saw that video and I must say that kind of stirred me up a little bit.
She didn't dig it massively, did she? She thought it was. I can't remember. Was it too simplistic for her or something?
Too simplistic. She thought that Sheffield United's badge was significantly better than the Forest badge.
Wow, I didn't hear her say that.
I tell you what, because obviously I've got a lot of Forest fans that watch the channel and we like to praise them on there, but they weren't happy because the picture we put up cropped out the 2 stars. And, I'll take that, Craig. Thank you. And it cropped out the stars. So when we did a competition on the community page, and I think Forest got to the final of that, and we featured the stars. So yeah, a lot of Forest fans do dig the badge.
Don't worry, Matt. I haven't got it on my daily video one, and I still get abused for it. Yeah. Like, people don't understand aesthetically. As much as I love the 2 stars and I will use them against it's so hard. The Forest badge is you'll know what I mean, Matt. It's such a hard shape to get into images with the 2 stars, but I hear you. They're all going to kick off now.
Yeah.
Matt made you remove it.
It's not Matt's fault. We've got to be excuses out of the way anyway. But okay, let's move on to. I mean, we'll talk about. We talk about it every week, I remember. But let's have a little review of Johnson saga. With Villa still very much interested in completing his signature. Matt, what do you reckon on him? Is he a player that we can live without? Because as the guys alluded to, let me mention as well earlier, the last few games of the season he wasn't starting, and we were playing a lot different formation, and it did the job. It got us the points, and we looked solid as well. Do you think that it's kind of pointing towards the direction that he might be going, might be leaving Forest this summer? And is he a player that we can live without and we can progress without, or would you think with the money that we'd get in for him that we'd have to look to replace him?
Yeah, there's no doubt you'd have to replace him, because like we said, at the moment we're talking about a 1 year who got 10, 11 goals, and Johnson was the next top goal scorer with 10, 11 goals as well. So and that is impressive in the Premier League for a player that's just come up from the Championship. So I get the hype. Lots of clubs have been interested. We said it was Brentford last summer as well. We're after him, and they're still interested, aren't they? And Villa as well. 50 million price tag. I don't know. Is he worth that? He had a great first season. I think his value will only go up. It then comes down to how Forest value him. It comes down to how much they think they need him as well. Like you say, in those final few games. I mean, I find it interesting because you can get this with some teams where one of their best players comes out of the team, but it can actually benefit the team. And I think I saw one of your polls the other day, Wolverine, that you asked the Forest fans who's more important out of Morgan Gibbs-White and Brennan Johnson. And I agree, it was overwhelmingly Morgan Gibbs-White. And I wouldn't have thought I'd be saying that this time last year or when you brought Morgan Gibbs-White in. So he's it's been brilliant. I think it's an emotional thing as well because he's been there ages now, Brennan Johnson as well. He's been there with the journey coming through the championship as well. You've got that attachment to him. But it just comes down to, has Steve Cooper got players in mind that he'd recruit with that money? I'm 50-50 about whether he'll go. I think he's going to stay, but I think it was inevitable there was going to be interest in him.
Yeah, 100%. Go on.
I was just going to say, I always love hearing opinions of, well, we know Matt deep down is a closet Forest fan, but it's always interesting to hear what outside our Forest bubble people think of Jono. I mean, what you said there, Matt, about it being emotional, I think you're right. If he wasn't Forest through and through, I don't know. It's a tough one. Because he wasn't even playing as a striker and he still nearly got 10 Premier League goals. He got into double figures for the season. That's talent. That is talent. But at the same time, Cooper did drop him tactically in the last few games. And you could argue we got, our best swing of results through that. But 50 million is a lot. I mean, what would you value him at, Matt? What do you think he is, like, realistically, with a non-Forest hat on? Because we're, like, some in the chat, I guarantee, if I say now, chat, how much is he worth? We'll get from 100 to 20 million in there. Or priceless. But what would you say is an external looking in, Matt? How much is he worth?
See, I don't usually answer these questions. I'll sit on the fence because I really don't like them. Because I think the thing is, it's what it comes down to is how much he's worth to the club that's interested in him and how much he's worth to the club he's playing at. I think if you didn't have Iwonyi last season, Brennan Johnson would have been, your top scorer by quite some distance, really, and you'd be a bit more hesitant to get rid of him. That comment there from Stoney, maybe in the middle of that, the price of money in football as well is just getting silly now as well. I mean, we've got players that a championship pedigree, and Gyökeres going for 20 million perhaps, and then that makes me think, well, Brennan Johnson's surely worth more than 40 or something. I mean, maybe between 40 to 50 is where I value him at.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so saying that and discussing how we've changed our formation, how he doesn't seem to be as vital. I mean, my argument is pretty much along your lines of what you said there, Matt. As what's his actual value to keep him for Forest? Is it more valuable to keep him for another season and see what we can achieve, or cash in now? For me, Aston Villa are probably the only ones that are really realistic, unless somebody above them comes in, like a Newcastle. I think Aston Villa, with what they can offer, with where they're located, obviously the European football, fantastic manager, a fantastic forward-thinking manager. And I also think that he's probably better than Leon Bailey, he'd probably be directly up against. And he's worked with Matty Cash, who's their right back. There's a lot of reasons for him to want to go there if he's being what's the word I'm looking for? If he's being ambitious, or whether he's going to think it's worth sticking around Forest for another season. For me, I think he wants and he deserves a better contract, and I think that's probably why all this talk started. But then when Villa started coming in with a serious bids, if they bid 50 million plus, I think Forest will have serious chats about him, despite what the price tag is that we've put on him. He's a player that obviously has got a higher ceiling than some of our others. But as Wolverine asked the chat, who's more important to Forest, MG or Brennan? It's a tough one, but the chat overwhelmingly went with MG Dub, didn't they, Wolvie? It wasn't even
87%.
Yeah,
I would agree with it, man. I think you can. I don't want to lose Jono. Let's, I'm not Simon here who hates Jono. I'm joking. I don't want to lose Jono. Yeah, but if I had a gun to my head, like MG Dub, he's not really replaceable. The only person you've got in there who can take over from that position, in my opinion, would be Scarpa. even though I still prefer Scarpa on the right. Whereas with Jono, I think the back end of last season proved that we can live without him. Maybe not for a longer period of time, but if I had to choose between the two, I just think MG Dub, and can I say congratulations to him, under 21s champ, fantastic tournament. That's, more importantly than that, he didn't get injured, which was all I cared about.
Got sent off.
I was more happy that he wasn't injured than, that he won it. But he's going from strength to strength. He was looking cocky and arrogant, and I freaking loved it, man. Those moves he was doing, the skill moves and everything, they all look like they're coming off nicely. Yeah, they're all saying he got sent off. By the way, guys, that means he gets a 2-match ban in the Premier League for that. I'm joking. But yeah, it was brilliant to see, and he was getting a lot of headlines. And I would be insulted if we don't start seeing links to MG Dub to other clubs, because I think he's that guy. I don't want him to go, but I really think I wouldn't be surprised if some big clubs started sniffing around for him, because he's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, are we all frozen now? Did I
don't know, Joe. You there?
I'm good.
He's I thought I'd frozen everybody there. Was that a question for Joe? Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, I was wondering, Joe, would you agreeing with him? MG Dub or Brennan? Who would you take?
Oh, MGW. I was one of the participants of said poll. I definitely voted for Morgan Gibbs-White, and I feel there's a couple of factors that kind of flow into that. One of which is purely just the position that he plays. He plays in the spine of the team. Is one of the more influential roles is going to be playing through the middle, because the ball is going to be coming into him, and then he's going to be one that to take it and turn around and then try and distribute it out. Whereas Johnson on the wing, his main role is to get the ball and run with it. Or break in the space and then get the ball and then try and find someone in the middle or take a shot himself. So the role that he plays is more influential. I feel the way that he controls the ball, uses it, spots other players and distributes it is significantly better than what Brennan Johnson showed last season. I mean, yes, he scored a lot of goals, but I'm pretty sure we'd also say that Brennan Johnson had a lot of chances where he could have just squared it off to someone else for a lot easier options, and he just didn't take that, because he didn't have to in League One or in the Championship. He never had to do that. He was just able to run through players and just shoot and score. So that was part of his learning curve that I'd like to say there'd be a lot of development throughout this season, and then with the season upcoming, I'd like to think if we were going to play him, we'd see that improvement. But if you had to pick one of the two, it's always going to be Morgan Gibbs-White.
Bro, can I just say, man, Zinc, really, Henny, really,
Honey.
really, man? Come on, man. We might as well get Keenan Davis as well. I said the.
I'll take that. Keenan Davis, Jed. Yeah, let's get them all back. We'll get the left back as well. Obviously, we're not going to go back over all ground over our former players who we want back or potentially don't want back. But I mean, it's looking like if a serious bid comes in, that Forest will entertain it. But I still think he's worth more for keeping him to Forest. I don't think we're quite there with FFP, but obviously the guys behind the scenes know more than that, and we do need players to go out. There's been talk earlier this week of Sam Surridge with a potential move. Is it to Leeds for about 2 million? And to be fair, I mean, I don't think he's in Cooper's long-term plans for the Premier League, and if we can get our money back for him, I'd be more than happy with that. And I think he'd probably do a good job for Leeds as well, to be fair to him. Matt, any opinion on Sam Surridge? Where is his level? Did you see much? I mean, we didn't see much of him last season, but there was a lot of call for him to be played. But Cooper overlooked him on many occasions where he went with Andre Ayew and Chris Wood ahead of Sam Surridge. Do you think there's still a player in there? Obviously, he's still young, but is Championship more his level?
Yeah, I was actually going to come to Sam Surridge in a bit and say I'd gladly take him at Coventry. I think he's a good Championship striker to have. Can't really speak too much about Premier League because, like you say, he was overlooked, and you don't know until someone dips their toes in the Premier League how good they actually are. So I wouldn't discredit him and say he can't cut it in the Premier League just because he hasn't really been given the opportunity. Got a couple of goals last season, didn't he? Yeah, I'd take him in the Championship. I remember him playing for Yeovil. That's when I first noticed him back in League Two. He scored a really good goal against Coventry then, and then he was obviously at Bournemouth. But yeah, like you say, I think a move out from Forest now, seeing as he's not really going to be part of their starting 11 or even their backup striker. So Championship, Leeds, possibly. Like I say, I'd take him at Coventry, top end Championship. I think, like we spoke about Luton Town earlier, maybe a team coming up from the Championship, going on to try and find some goal scorers for the Premier League. Maybe a Luton Town or Sheffield United would take him. But yeah, there we go. Eddie, can we come to a deal there, guys? Can we sort it out here? Sorry to Coventry.
Matt, didn't you just buy a SIM card from Everton?
Who did it buy?
Didn't you just get a SIM card?
Sorry, that took me a second. That took me a second. Yes, we did. That's obviously going to be our replacement for Victor Gyökeres, which is just rumbling on. But yeah, he's proven at the Championship level, I suppose. He only got, I think we played for Sunderland for the first half of the season, and then Everton actually recalled him. He didn't play a lot for Everton in the second half of the season. He did get that goal against Chelsea. But yeah, I'll take that. I know we're not going to get a player as proven as Gyökeres goes out the door because we are still in the Championship, unfortunately. But yeah, I think Sims is a decent one. But I think we're still interested in trying to bring in a couple more. We were linked with Billy Sharp, and I'm not 100% sure about because he's getting past it for me. So I'd probably take Sam Surridge over Billy Sharp.
He must be like 35, 36.
He's got to be
40. I'm thinking more 40.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think he was in his 30s when he played.
But what I'd say about Sam Surridge is you'd get a player who's got the hunger to prove himself at that level. I know Billy Sharp can cut it in the Championship, but Sam Surridge would be more hungry to prove himself and get game time.
Yeah, he's 37, Billy Sharp. 37. He's still going. I agree with you, Sam Surridge. I had no problems with him in the Championship. Everyone goes on about the Swansea game, don't they? The Peterborough game as well. It's a good finish. I think he would do well at Coventry. And I do agree with you, Matt. Even maybe a Luton coming up, if he could keep himself on side.
Yeah.
I would sell him. I probably would sell him, or at the very least, loan him out for a season.
Yeah,
he's not going to get much game time with us next year, is he?
You'd be looking at, and you also, I mean, I think I'd be looking at any loan deals with an option to buy, because I just don't see him cutting it at this level. And I think if Cooper was interested, he would have given him more opportunities when he had plenty of time. There was games last season where, the Brighton away game was a perfect example, where he should have, he took Chris Wood off, and then he brought Andre Ayew on, and it just that was a game where you think was perfect for Sam Surridge to have that little bit of pace up front, and we could hit him on the counter attack. And obviously we ended up losing that game, which could have been disastrous for us. It didn't end the Brentford game. Could have been disastrous for us. Didn't end up being so. But he is a player that has got potential. But I would see him, maybe a promotion pushing team in the Championship. But if we can get anywhere near close to our money back for him, I'd kind of like cashing on him, to be honest. And I think he's got a future ahead of him. He's only 23, 24 years old. He's got his whole career ahead of him, but maybe just not with Forest. There's certainly a player that came in with a lot of potential, did what he needed to do to help us get up. Just didn't cut it out in the Premier League level, and probably won't. But I just want to skip onto a video that Matt, you did. I think it was
just before. Sorry. We're going to do two housekeeping things, yeah? We got like 300 odd of you in here and 70 likes. Guys, hit that like button if you haven't already. Much appreciated, especially as we got the legend that is Matt SB, on here as well, taking his time out with his fun internet connection tonight. And also just a quick reminder, the FFTV live podcast / barbecue, whatever you want to call it, tickets are still available. It's £5. It's at the Trent Nav, 6th of August. Doors will open from 3 p.m. We're also going to throw in, and we got to shout out to Oh My, who will be funding this. Massive thank you to Oh My. There's going to be £120 worth of Forest shop vouchers for the clubs for the club shop. that we will raffle. Anyone who's got a ticket, we'll chuck your number in and we'll draw some prizes out. So that'll be 120 quid. So you'll be able to get yourself the new Adidas shirt once it's out as well. So if you want the tickets, there's still some available. Click on the link that's pinned in the chat or in the description as well. And just one other shout out. Can we please make sure that if you're not subscribed to Mad SB, that you go and subscribe now? All you gotta do is click on the title. It's linked in there. Quick click subscribe, done in 2 clicks. It's all done and dusted. But those are the things. So make sure you get those. Remember, we'll be doing a live podcast. Then there'll be the barbecue. The barbecue obviously will be at the Trent Nav. So you go up and get what you want and pay for it, etc. And then we'll be doing another podcast as well. But it's going to be interactive with the crowd there. So we'll probably chuck us in the crowd with a mic and start chatting to you guys. I can't wait for it. I cannot wait for it. Like the idea, we get to see you guys in 3D and mingle with you. It's going to be so much fun. And it's going to be the week before the Premier League starts and the day after we've just played our final friendly. And it's going to be hopefully a crap load of new signings. Well, maybe not a crap load who have come in. So, if you can make it, 6th of August. I keep saying October. 6th of August.
6th of August. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a Sunday and it's just the week before the season kicks off. So hopefully we'll have plenty to talk to you guys about, and we'll have a few decent.
It's not. There's no age restrictions. So if you're under 18, we've checked with Trent Nav. It's absolutely fine for you guys to come along. Obviously, they won't serve you drink though. Yeah. Is Matt going? Matt is more than welcome to come. Matt, if you're free on the 6th.
More than welcome. Matt, Sophie, you're all welcome.
In Nottingham. But you're going to county, aren't you, Matt?
Are you going to the county game next week?
I'll be. Are you there, Ez?
Yes, I'll be there, mate. So we can try and meet up if you want.
Yes.
It'd be really great because I got. Is anyone else in the chat going? I know Mark Waywell is because he's the one who's got me the ticket. So anybody else who's going, please give us a shout and we'll meet you down there on the day. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm hoping, obviously, we've maybe signed a player or two before then, but I think I'm more interested in seeing the new kit because it's the day after the kit launch. So seeing the new kit and hopefully having a new sponsor on there, but should be a good atmosphere. Hopefully not like the pre-season friendly against Notts County last season where he ended up playing over youth team, and I think a few of the fans were a bit annoyed about that, but I think we're more likely to see a stronger team being put out. But it'd be great to see you down there, mate. Just give me a shout and we'll meet up maybe for a coffee or something before the game. It'd be great to see you, man. I just wanted to mention a video that you put out. I think it was your manager tier rating for the Premier League. I think you did it with the Championship players as well, and you did it with Premier League managers. Obviously, you're a big fan of Steve Cooper. Just remind us where he was in your tier system. Was he A rated? And go on, wax lyrical about Steve Cooper.
Yeah, I do. I'm a massive fan of Steve Cooper because of what he's done for Forest. As I mentioned, oh my God. Do you know what? I'm taking these out. Oh, I'll leave one in, actually. That'll work. These earphones. So we were saying about the manager tier list video. I think Steve Cooper's been there. He's been there 2 years now. And I've just been impressed. When I came on about 6 months ago, I was just saying how brilliant a job he did, obviously in that season where he took them straight into the playoffs from the bottom of the league. We went on about an unreal season there. And then last season, he kept them up, did an incredible job. He had to bring in 30 signings. And we said how big of a summer it was last year where the loan players had gone out and you needed to make those wholesale changes. And he kept them up in 16th place. We said all season, I know you guys did as well, I was saying back to Forest all season, stay up. I will admit my prediction before the season was 11th, so I did slightly overestimate Forest, but 16th is still incredible. Too, all three teams that come up stayed up. I gave him an A grade because I think he's done an incredible job with Nottingham Forest, and I know you guys would probably be looking at A star. I think I mentioned to Sophie about putting him in A star, but she was like, "Oh, we'll go for A." I mean, it's very. You wouldn't go A star?
No. I'd give him a B+ for me personally, but that's just over the play style. Everything you've said about him is completely true. Yeah, I just want to see the progression. Now, if it comes next season, fantastic, A-star. And I just don't want low block football, Matt. I think we're better than that for me personally. I agreed with everything you said on your video about it. I think now is the style kick on. That for me is the next step. Can we play like we believe we're a Premier League team, that we can take the game? But at the same time, the argument back is, well, if we do that, could we end up losing more games? You know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
What I'll say is, if we rewind back to September 2021, and I said to you, Steve Cooper's coming in 18 months' time, you'll have got into the Premier League and stayed in the Premier League. I know, you look at the style of football and just surviving, but you'd have said that's got to be an A-star kind of manager, hasn't it? Because although we can talk about the style of football, and I do feel like next season is a massive season for Steve Cooper, by the way, in terms of, are Forest going to push on, or are they just going to be in another relegation battle? Or is it just about just getting over the line again? But from what he's done so far in, like we say, nearly 2 years now, it's incredible how many managers come and go in the Championship. And he took Forest from the bottom. I know Chris Hughton was doing a horrific job. I don't know what he was doing. He had the bottom, and Cooper pretty much with the same players took you up. But for what he's done so far, I think since Clough, I would argue to say there's been a better manager than Steve Cooper.
Okay. We'd argue that. We'd probably argue Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark, you got to argue, and maybe even Dave Bassett to an extent, because the only thing, I mean, that promotion season, 97, 98, that was one of our best promotions from the Championship. But he got hamstrung with Kevin Campbell being sold, and then obviously Van Hooijdonk goes and has his freaking strike, and it meant that we were coming straight back down. But that promotion season under Harry Bassett was probably one of the best seasons I've seen under Forest.
But I'll defend Cooper on that. Cooper came in from a lower position. We were bottom, man. What Matt says about the 18-month thing is so spot on. Any Forest fan would bite off for that. The problem, and I'll admit this as me, I can't speak for everyone else. The problem is your expectations do start to change. We get greedy, or at least I get greedy. And I do remember the Frank Clark days, even though I'm only 21. And, Forest came up and finished third. I was stupid enough to say we'd come up and finish fourth this season. So I get it. I'm not saying I'm being logical about anything at all, right? Because you can't when it comes to your team. But I do want, for me now, look, it's clean slate. Yeah, everyone now, we're going to a new season. I think your point, Matt, on what's the expectations next year, that's a real interesting debate, isn't it? Because I would like to see us pushing somewhere at least for 10th, because I look at it like this. Fulham came up from the Championship, and they were flying high and ended up in a comfortable 10th position. They couldn't go any higher towards the end of the season or any lower. And for me, can Forest do that? I look at the two squads, and outside of Mitrovic and Paulinho, I think Forest have got at least an on-par squad with them. And, Fulham won a Championship team before.
What I'd say the difference between Fulham and Forest is Fulham had parachute payments in the Championship. For me, they were always going to do very well in it. And they didn't have to make as big wholesale changes in their first season in the Premier League. I know the style of football is different, and, neutrals might prefer to watch Fulham style of football to Forest because they feel like they were more progressive. But I think that they didn't have to make as big a changes. And I agree with what you said earlier, Wolverine, about Forest having to gel at the start of the season. We spoke about those first few games, about just getting points on the board, just keep yourselves in touching distance. And then you look at those last four results of the season, to beat Southampton, draw with Chelsea, beat Arsenal, and draw with Palace. That's sort of top six form. I know it's a small sample size, but if you look at those four games, Forest were ending the season really well. And if there was a few more games on the end of that, Forest could have been climbing up to 14th, 13th. So I agree that there isn't any this time around that it's a gelling process. But you want to see some progression. But I just think you've got to stay behind Steve Cooper, which Forest fans did for the majority last season, which was brilliant.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question from Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
He's saying, would I accept low block if we played it more effectively with better transitions, secured 10th place? In a way, what you're saying there is, would I accept counter-attacking football? Because there's a difference between counter-attacking football and low block football. I have no problems with counter-attacking football. Look at Brentford. They're probably one of the best teams at counter-attacking football in the league. And I'm fine with that. For me, it's the whole park the bus, as Mourinho once said, 19th century football. I just feel we're a better team than that. And if we were to do, look, even when we were in the championship, we were a counter-attacking team. We weren't a low-blocking team under Cooper 2 years ago. We were counter-attacking, but it was quick. It was efficient. The transition was quick, all that stuff. I'm fine with that. Don't get me wrong. But there is a distinction between low block for me and counter-attack. And counter-attack is where my baseline would start, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you, is the style of play a major factor for you? Or would you just be happy with us staying up? And do you think we've got a kind of a foundation with how we finished last season with in terms of our shape going forward for next season?
I think, yeah, I feel the way that we finished the season, that has to be how we have to kind of look forwards to try and start the next season, especially with the tough run of games that we've got away from home. I mean, all of our away games, that's an absolute baptism of fire going into next season. So we have to try and stick with the formula that was working at the back end of last season. And I do agree, we will end up playing low block football and trying to nick a goal here or there. I feel like that formation has the progression to transition into more of a counter-attacking football by getting the attacking fullbacks who can then try and transition and try and play more as winger roles. That was how it was working in the Championship when we had Jed Spence on the right-hand side, who was then making those overlapping runs.
Yeah.
If we can transition more into getting that kind of system working in the Premier League, then I think that is how Cooper wants to play football. And it was working at the end of the season. I feel that it will work if we get the right personnel in and try and get it to work again. I'd rather do that than try and adopt some of the more traditional systems that seem to be working for the top 10 if it's just not going to work for us, because we tried everything under the sun last season trying to see what players would work in what formations. And it just took way too long. So I'd rather have a system that was working and stick with it, not try and fix it.
Joe, what would you say to this one? This is a really good question, Phil. Would you rather play low block and finish 10th or play like Man City but finish 15th?
Low block and finish 10th.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question as well. When you compare
that question, the answer to that is just it has to be results based. You've finished 5 places above by playing that style of football. It doesn't matter if you're the best team to kind of watch and all of a sudden, your match of the day ratings drop down because you're not playing as good at football to be aesthetically pleasing to all the rest of the fans. I couldn't give a toss about that. I'd rather keep on nicking 1-0, 2-0, 2-1s and be climbing up the league and be developing that kind of low block football, which I feel is going to transition into counter-attacking football.
More counter-attacking. Go on, Matt. What were you going to say? What was your question?
I completely agree with your points as well, because I'm not here to defend low block football. I wouldn't really have the patience to watch it every week. But what I would say is results surely over performances. You think of the Man City draw 1-1 or the Liverpool 1-0 win. You think if you'd have played more open and expansive, would you have got those results? I'm not saying Forest aren't capable of playing that kind of style of football, but I think in those scenarios, you think the home games where they ground out clean sheets. I mean, I've said before, like the home games, the fans really make a difference as well, but they just sort of dig in deep when they need to. I agree in terms of moving away from low block football, but I think it would probably have to be a slow transition. Maybe over a season or two it'd take, but it's a difficult thing to just maneuver over a summer just over a summer, where if you go into the new season, completely different setup, you could get caught off guard and lose your first few games. And you look at Forest's first 6 games this season as well. Those first 4 away games are so difficult. You're going to have to dig in deep into those games to get anything out of them.
Yeah. I mean, we drew the comparisons with Fulham earlier, but I think probably a better or more closer comparison would be with what Brentford have achieved over the last couple of seasons, because the season before last, they only stayed up by about 2 or 3 points. And then if you look at their points tally from last season, I think it was about 20, 25 points better than their previous season. So that was a massive progression for them. And I heard this comment on another channel, but I'll nick it. But I would say, how many of their players would get into our squad and how many of our players would get into their squad? Because I do think we've got a much better squad than Brentford. So that is more a more feasible progression for me than maybe looking at what Fulham achieved this season. Because if a Brentford side after their first season can solidify, keep the main core of their players, and then push on by 20 points, and they were only just outside the European places, weren't they, this season? There's definitely he's gone again. There's definitely
Matt, you insulted him with that comment, Matt. That's it, Matt. He just got rid of it.
Fair point there, Matt. But yeah, probably Brentford is a bit closer comparison for me, or what we can potentially achieve from this season. But going on to, I mean, have you any comments on that, guys, at all? Do you think Brentford are kind of a role model or someone we should be looking at?
Well, can I just address what Colin said here, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I hear this a lot about we started like that and lost 2-0 to Spurs. I don't agree with that. I think that was the battle of like the low block versus the low block, because we were at home. Spurs just sat back. Yeah. Like, if you look at the goals that we conceded at Spurs, they were mistakes defensively.
Yes.
Yeah. And we didn't have a number 9 in that match. We had, if I remember rightly, it was Jono, bloody Jesse Lingard, and MG Dub as the 3. And there were so many opportunities where they got into squareable positions, for want of a better phrase. And there was no one in the box to give it to, because they were playing as a false 9. Remember, we went through that whole false 9 phase. I get what you're saying, but I think people lean on that way too much to make it sound like, oh, if we went expansive, this is what would happen. I don't fully agree with that, but I understand what you're saying, Colin. Welcome back, Matt.
Not been my kind of night, has it?
No.
That comment earlier.
To come again.
Yeah, I've not been very lucky since Wembley, I must say.
Bless you.
Quick shout out to Tom. Thank you so much for becoming a member. You absolute legend. Appreciate it, buddy. Don't forget, guys, we've got loads of new member perks coming up for the new season. Thank you to all of you crazy guys that are supporting us. We love you guys so much.
Yeah, just going to see if there's any comments I need to read up now. I mean, so
can we bring up some questions for
Matt? Go for it. Yeah, go for it, mate.
There's been a few that have come up. And guys, get your questions into Matt, and I'm sure he doesn't mind, and we'll get him up on the screen. Matt, question here from Hamad for you. I have a question for you. Would you rather play Jono in midfield or play Felipe as a striker?
I don't have a clue. Have we seen Felipe play further forwards, or is that just a random question?
I think it's a random question. He's a big fan of yours, Mohammed.
I was just wondering, maybe in like a game where you've been chasing in the last few minutes, you've sent the centre back up and he's done a decent job up front. I would imagine Johnson in midfield. I really rated Felipe as a centre back, so I wouldn't really pull him out of that position. Wouldn't imagine it'd be. Well, I mean, maybe be quite good in the air, but I'd stick Johnson in the middle. I think that could actually work, to be fair.
I'm guessing Matt hasn't seen that goal that was ruled offside then.
Yeah,
never offside.
It was ruled offside, and then he did a backflip or something, didn't he? Or I don't know. But anyway, it was ruled offside, unfortunately. Yeah, the best goal that never was from last season.
Mark's saying to you, Matt, if you meet at the Trent Nav before the county game, is literally like on the same road, is it?
Yeah.
If you want to meet there before. And then this is the other question that's coming from Colin. I know we asked you this last time you were on, but how was our boy Panzo? And did he make you shit your pants in the last minute of time?
I was going to say, I was looking forward to speaking about Panzo. I'd imagine you guys would have watched the playoff final. When we spoke about him in January, he'd been playing quite a lot, and I quite rated him. And then we brought in McNally from Burnley, and he came in, and Panzo, to be honest, I think Panzo never really recovered from the red card against Wrexham. Not that he did anything too badly wrong. He just got sent off, and his arm was just in the wrong position at the wrong time. But he just never really got back into it. And then you can imagine his first game in ages coming on in extra time in a playoff final. It's just like, I just think that's a deadly situation for a centre back who's not played in such a long time. And then, yeah, honestly, I was so mad at him, but he was saved by the handball, wasn't he? But then in the end, we lost anyway. So I was just like, I give up. But I think the big picture is if we're trying to be level-headed here, he was good in the first half of the season because he got a good run of games. And we said before that he was composed on the ball. He brought it out well from the back. And I think most Coventry fans would actually still take him back at Coventry next season. I think you guys said he was he's going to Rangers or been linked with Rangers?
Yeah,
Rangers,
yeah. So I'd imagine like another Championship or maybe a Scottish Premier League side is probably the next step for him. I don't think he's ready for the Premier League yet. But yeah, he was all right. The big picture, he was all right.
There's a couple more. Ez, do you want to talk about? There's been a few. Well, should we do the final Matt question here from Chapo? This is an interesting one. What players come to mind for you, Matt, for Forest?
What players? Okay, so like we said earlier, I was looking at building this sort of Forest team. How would I have it for next season? I think the first position, which is absolutely crucial, is a goalkeeper. I know that sounds obvious, but when you think back to Leicester City, I've referenced this before, they never replaced Schmeichel, and I think that's one of the massive things that cost them in going down. So I think, like we said, Dean Henderson. I'm not too sure what other Premier League goalkeepers would make that move across to Forest. So maybe they'd have to go shopping in Europe. I just think Dean Henderson is such a big would be such a big steal for Forest if they can get him through the door. And I suppose it depends, like you say, on what money he'd come in for. I see you talking, Wolverine, about Tyler Adams. That would be an interesting one. Leeds player. I mean, that was his first season at Leeds last season. He's USA international as well. But I was wondering, would you? I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. Would you see him as a player that would come in for Yates and play alongside Danilo, maybe?
You asked a tough question.
Yeah,
don't you?
Joe,
you're the best at the tough question.
Go on, Joe. Go on.
Oh,
You take this one.
Matt is probably throwing me in at the deep end there. Would I? This is.
Well, would you throw him straight in? Would you throw him straight in?
That I'm struggling with this question is because I'm struggling to take my sentimentality hat off at the moment. I'm really, it's trying to take that off and look at it purely objectively. Which if I think I was, then yeah, I probably would say Tyler Adams would be the starting midfielder over Yates, but I would then be neglecting the fact that Yates has that X factor similar to our other homegrown players that you just can't buy. And that is the drive and desire to do everything that he can. He leaves everything on the pitch every single game. And no amount of skill or talent can buy that. So that's where you're kind of comparing it. In terms of footballing ability, yes, Tyler Adams is going to be better. But Yates, his drive and passion for the club is just, you can't buy that from anywhere else. So
should I be the bad guy? I'd drop him. I'd drop him. No, I think he's a good player, and I agree with what he's saying on the passion. But I agree with Omni here. I think some of his best performances have been coming off the bench. I think back to Everton at the start of the season, and I think it was Everton again at the end of the season when he came on and he brought that drive and the passion. And I'm just basing this solely on non-sentimentality. Adams is a great CDM for me. He frees up the rest to get forward. He can control a midfield quite well. He gives you the option to play in a 2 because we got overrun a lot with the 2 last season. And I think he's a better passer than Yates. On top of that, now is his desire as strong as Yates? No chance. But I would also make this point. It strengthens either way. It strengthens the midfield. If you bring a Tyler Adams in, and then you're then fighting between him, Mangala, Yates, Danilo, etc. That's only good for the club. Forget the whole sentimentality. If you make
Yeah.
that midfield a fight to get in, and you better perform week in, week out on the training pitch, or you're not getting in, that just benefits Forest. I don't see the problem with that. And if it's Yates that's dropped, or maybe Mangala goes out of form, and you get a Danilo Yates, Tyler Adams 3, I don't see anything in there that is something that would be negative or impact the team negatively, because you're creating places for competition, which I think is healthy.
There's a couple of points. I mean, one thing we'll all agree, I think, certainly for Forest fans amongst us, that we don't have a proper CDM. The players that we brought in to do that role didn't do that role. Then Cooper was putting round pegs in square holes and trying to make players fit. And Tyler Adams is a proper CDM. But the thing with Yates is he's almost like a good luck charm for Forest. Our points tally with him in the team is certainly higher than without him in the team. So he is a bit of a good luck charm for us. But if it comes to down to pure ability as a CDM, Tyler Adams comes in ahead of him, and it doesn't weaken us with having Yates as an impact sub. But certainly from our point of view, I think we desperately need a CDM. The only stumbling block for me with Tyler Adams, and maybe Matt, you might know a little bit more on this, is his price tag. So initially, I think they were looking at closer to 40 million. Leeds wanted for him, which is way above what he should be worth, with them obviously having gone down. 20 to 25 million is still a lot of money for a championship player, but I think he was their best player last season, personally. So I think for that price tag, I'd go for him. Matt, what would you rate him at value-wise? And do you think he's a player that can come straight into a Forest team?
I think he could, and if he didn't, then he'd be on the fringes of the team. Like we say, you'd have 3 or 4 good options, with, like we say, Yates and Danilo, and how you want to, depends how you want to play it and how many you want to have in that middle. I don't see him playing in the Championship, and I think Leeds are playing hardball here because I don't think they're going to hang on to him. Like we say, he's a US international. I just think he did make a good impact last season, but then I wouldn't put the value on him that high because he only got one year in the Premier League last year in terms of that Premier League experience. So I wouldn't value him as high as they are. But obviously, like we say, they're playing hard ball. And at the moment, I was looking at Leeds' transfer activity. There's not a lot going on at the moment. So I think they want to just bring that bit more money in to help them fund getting back up to the Premier League. I'd say maybe 25 mil, maybe not even 20.
I fully agree. I think that's his price. I fully agree.
Much higher than that.
You can't charge extortionate from the Championship, can you? I know Spurs bought what's his face from Leicester for 40 odd, but that's different. I just think 25 mil is the sweet spot for him. I do agree with that.
And looking at Leeds, I mean, it's definitely. Well, do you think they'll have a fire sale? Because they've definitely got players that we've discussed we'd certainly be interested in, and obviously Adams being one of them. There's Rodrigo, there's Sinister. They've definitely got quality there that probably should be playing at a higher level. Can you see them making a lot of changes, getting rid of a lot of players this transfer window, Matt?
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, I think it's going to be similar for Southampton, Leeds and Leicester as teams that go down. And they're not like your Norwiches or Fulhams who hold on to those players.
No, he's got it. He's having a nightmare.
Oh, God, poor Matt, man. It's got to be frustrating. As Harvey's asking if you can meet him at the Nuts game. He's got a Forest show and he wants to do some filming.
Yeah, no problem. Harvey, just get me on... DM me on Twitter. I'll put the link in there somewhere. Harvey. If you're not following me on Twitter, just find me on there. Certainly we can arrange something, mate, on a day. No problem with that at all, mate. And I'm sure if Matt's with me, I'll get Matt on there as well for you, mate. Just give you a little bit of a push. No problems with that. Is there anything else you want to discuss, Wolfie? I'm going to let you kind of like finish us off. I don't know if you've hit all.
Can I just do one huge big up to one of the best signings we've done this season? And I know a few have brought it up in the chat. I think Jojo brought it up. And by the way, Jojo will be opening the FFTV barbecue up for us with Mulligan Tyre. It's going to be fantastic. So make sure you're getting your tickets. Quick reminder, Stephen Reed. Can we just talk about what a great re-edition. Lemmy, were you a fan of him when he came in, Mr. Cigar and Drinks after the final? Lovely features.
I mean, it just felt like that was something that was kind of important. We all felt, I feel when in our promotion season, we kind of felt the role that he was kind of having, especially working alongside Cooper, who was then coming into a squad of players that he'd never worked with before. And I felt like it wasn't a lot of plaudits go to Cooper, but I felt a lot of it had to go to Stephen Reed as well. So I'm really excited to see what he can do, because he didn't really get a lot of chance to work with any of these new signings that came in. So the work that he's going to be able to do with some of the young talent that we brought in last season, hopefully is just going to see even more progression from those. So yeah, it's almost just as important as getting a new player in.
What's up, man? Where have you been? We haven't seen you in the chat for ages. Hope you're well. And I do agree with you. For me, I think, and I'll say this based on what the players have said, like Steve Cooper is a real good manager, the kind of arm around player. And I always thought, and I know Ant the Hat, for example, he's a huge fan of really being the enforcer in that terms. Now, how true that is or not, we don't know. Yeah, but I do feel he's the yin to his yang, and he does bring that force to the balance. And also, I think he's really good tactically. Like, a lot of the stuff was given credit to him. Set pieces. I mean, we've never been brilliant at set pieces, but but also just generally the thing that stands out more than anything is, even though he was under Houghton, when he got that game, it was Huddersfield, wasn't it? He's the one who changed it into the 3-back formation. Okay, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it worked for us beautifully in the Championship. And then Cooper came in and kind of saw, okay, this is working. Let's develop it on. So they have a good balance between them. Yeah. And I actually think he will improve Cooper, because if we're honest, if I'm being honest, the parts where Cooper needs improving on are substitutions, timing of them. Yeah. Maybe Reedy has able to help him with the man management in game and sniff out when things have, when you feel like things are turning. So I think I actually am excited about him coming back. There's always going to be the questions of, okay, can he still hack it in the Premier League, etc. And Ant the Hat, there he is, his boy. He's been like messaging me on WhatsApp non-stop how excited he is. Thank you so much for the $4.99, buddy. And we've campaigned for it. Both Ant the Hat and FFTV, bring him back, because there was balance in the force. So I'm really excited by it. And I think we will see a better Steve Cooper off the back of it. I really do.
I agree. Yeah, I think he'll bring a harmony to that backroom. But it was definitely something missing last season, wasn't there? Whether it's down to the lack of Premier League experience. Obviously, I don't think he's coached at Premier League level, but he's obviously played at Premier League level for most of his career. There is that side of it, and I think that was something that we were massively missing last season. But I just think he harmonizes that backroom team, and I think he's somebody again that is just going to slot straight back in. But a really great announcement, and I think that was probably the best signing we've made so far this summer, and it might be the best signing we make all summer. But I certainly think he helps, and I think there was definitely clamour for him to come back, because he was settled in his new job, he was enjoying it, So there must have been a lot of clamour to get him back, and obviously Cooper's had words with him as well. But really happy to see him back.
Do you reckon they did address that? Do you reckon that is part of the reason? Do you think they've said we need more experience in the backroom staff on players? And as was just mentioned in the comments, I mean, he was in the backroom staff at Palace. I can't remember if he was with Houghton in Brighton days or not. I wasn't focused that much on them. So he does have a bit of Premier League experience. But it's good to see that not only are they looking what can be improved on the pitch, but you have to look at the backroom staff as well. I mean, the other one is the new physio we've had brought in. That needed addressing as well.
Yeah. So was it from Newcastle? The fitness basically coach, which I mean, it came out last season. We didn't have a head physio all season, and if you look at the amount of injuries we had, whether that's directly linked to it or not, I don't know, because it seemed like with a lot of the injuries, and Omar Richards, perfect example. a hairline fracture and he misses the entire season for it.
Yeah.
So did that play a part in players' recovery? But it's good to see that those things are being addressed. And I mean, we have it on good authority that a lot of what we say, well, I'm not saying everything we say gets listened to, but we know that a fair bit of what the comments that we've made, and thank you to Crypto, by the way, before I talk over his amazing donation. Yeah, mate. Yeah, that's tax for you not making it. But I hope you enjoy your holiday, mate. But yeah, thank you, man. Massive part of the channel as well, Crypto. But yeah, thank you for the donation, bud. Yeah, if that's something that they've obviously realised was an issue, we know that we have it on good authority. I don't want to give too much away. That a lot of what we've said has been fed back to the management team, to even as high as Mr. Maranaka. So we do listen to what we say. And we said this all season, didn't we, about the coaching staff and the lack of experience and how that clearly was shown on the pitch. And you're right. It's good to see that they're addressing that. And I think it's about time as well. Maybe one or two more. There's a lot. We know there's a lot going on behind the scenes, by the way, in terms of building up the coaching team, the recruitment team, and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully, as the season goes on, we'll have a bit more input from these people, and we're hoping to get a few interviews and stuff like that as well. But yeah, really great to see that that's being addressed, and I hope that Stephen Reid just comes back in and it's like he's never been away and he hits the ground running, which I'm sure he will, and I'm sure the players are happy to have him back as well. But we've run for. We're nearly a 90-minute show. Is there any other business, guys? Anything that we haven't covered that you want to bring up? Matt, is there anything that you'd like to plug on your channel coming up? Any new shows you've got lined up?
Well, yeah, I'll be at the. I'll do a vlog for the game next week. I'm looking forward to getting to Meadow Lane for that one. I mean, like I said, I went last season as well. I quite enjoyed it, like as a neutral, because I saw quite a few goals. I understand your frustrations for it because you didn't see a full strength Forest side. I expect if Forest do go strong. Did you see the Stoke City result against Notts County? It was yesterday, wasn't it? They beat them 5-1. So I'd imagine Forest might be able to get a few goals. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So I've got that coming up. And then, yeah, just going to have a few videos coming out, maybe some predictions for the new season. Just can't wait now. It's just a month to go. And then we'll get into the swing of it with all the content for the season.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And Matt, you got to give us a pre-transfer prediction on where you think Forest are. I know you've done a couple of videos on it. I feel like you're changing your mind every week, though.
My opinion is I do think Forest will stay up again just because of how much I rate Cooper. And I know that might sound a bit far-fetched, but I generally think Forest...
No, I agree.
We need to weigh up the transfers because it is still early, and we'll still see transfers going through after the season started. But at this moment in time, I think Forest will stay up. I'm struggling to place them because I think it's going to be so tight in that region of the table. I think all three teams that have come up are going to be desperate to follow that trend of the three teams that have just stayed up. I think Bournemouth replacing their manager, that could be a bit of a wild card as well. I would guess between 13th to 15th at this moment in time for Forest. But if you make some big signings and it all starts to come through like dominoes, just knocking loads of signings coming in at a time, then I can imagine Forest climbing a bit closer to mid-table. But at this moment in time, that's where I'd put them. But I just think that goalkeeping position needs to be filled pretty urgently.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick reminder to everyone in the chat, Matt's channel, I know pretty much all of you are subscribed, but for the few who aren't, please make sure you click on it now and just press subscribe. 2 clicks, that's all it takes. It's in the title. Just click on it. It will take you straight to his wonderful YouTube page. And what you're on now, Matt, last I saw was about 33k. You're absolutely flying. So congratulations. I remember when you hit 30k, it was a great stream. Congratulations, mate. And I think last time you were on here, Matt, you were on about 22, 23. So you've been growing absolutely fantastically over these last few months, mate.
Yeah, well, it is a hard grind, YouTube. I was just saying before we went live as well that, this channel's absolutely going places as well because, you've been going just under a year now and you've shot up to 13,000 subscribers. I mean, to be honest, it's just a number. It's about getting fans that actually like you. I think that if you get too invested in the subscriber sort of thing, it can, it is just a number. But I think the content you guys are doing is brilliant. You're so consistent. So I really do appreciate you having me back on. And another thing I'll say as well is One of the videos we'll have coming up soon is we will go into an in-depth look at Forest before the season and my thoughts on why I think they will stay up, and I will get you guys to feature on that. So do check that out as well, guys.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing but love in the chat. Our chat are a bit of piss takers, though, Matt. You know, they've had the fun and games with your internet today, so I would apologize, but I know, you know, it's all in jest. Chat.
No,
yeah, they behave better than normal usually.
No, you certainly got a massive fan base amongst the Forest fans, and especially our FFTV followers. I doubt that there's a single guy or girl in our chat today who isn't subscribed to your channel. But if you're not, as Wolverine said, it's just a quick click on that hyperlink on the title. So yeah, please go ahead and do that if you haven't already. Thank you for supporting us, mate. We really appreciate the shout outs you're giving your comment section and stuff. And like he does on, and it seems to work. We're aiming for, like I say, we're aiming for 450 likes on this video by the end of it. So yeah, whatever. If that works, see if that works or not. We'll set him a target, or get him a keyword right at the end to see if you stuck along till the end of the video. But yeah, really appreciate your time, Matt. It's a hot Sunday afternoon, mate. We've all got jobs to go to in the morning. But yeah, we really appreciate your time, and thank you for everybody in the chat for all your comments. Lemmy, always great to have you back on, mate, and we'll get you back on more often as well. We'll set up our timetables and let you know as well. And hoping to see you all at the barbecue on the 6th of August, as Wolverine has mentioned so many times. Tickets are £5. Yeah, but just so there's no confusion, because somebody asked me this earlier, and I'm not saying that people were expecting this, but just to clarify, so your ticket price is just your price for entry. It doesn't include any free drinks or food at the barbecue, unfortunately, because that's all run by the Trent Nav, who have kindly given the venue to us. So do bring your pocket money with you, but we'd love to see as many of you there as possible. Tickets are going really fast, and like Wolverine mentioned, we'll be having some prizes to give away as well, so please get involved. So everybody who does buy a ticket will automatically be entered into the raffle, and we're hoping we get the weather as well, because it's a really great venue, and it's when the weather's good, you certainly get to experience it a lot better. So we're really looking forward to that. But yeah, thank you guys for all your time today. We're going to call it at 90 minutes, but great to see you again. We'll look out for the daily videos from Wolverine. Also, don't forget our FFTV High Press channel, where Dino's just putting out some amazing content at the moment. I'm lagging behind a little bit with the FFTV Premier League, but do look out for some videos and some interviews coming up on that channel in the next few weeks as well, because we're looking to launch that. But you know, FFTV's done fantastically well, and it's all down to you guys and all the support you give us, and people like Matt who give us kind shout outs on their channel. So thank you everybody for being here. Anything else to say, guys, or should we call it?
Let's call it there. You Reds or Sky Blues.
Come on, you Reds. and the Sky Blues. Take care, guys.